Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players. A lot of criticism to go around tonight, and I'll be doing this alongside my two wonderful co-hosts, Derek Kubicek and Josh Wessler. How you guys doing?
You've gone renegade. That was a very impromptu and non-standard introduction. You forayed into like, I'm wearing a leather jacket and riding a Sportster. Like I pictured you on a motorcycle. Like you were Colby riding into the the
Rosie
season,
O'Donnell on the back.
Yeah, the season 4 finale.
Yep.
And
That's what I was going for.
Which that might be Ryan Stacy's style, but going off structure for the podcast, definitely not.
Definitely not. I'm still reeling from that one, almost as much as some of the gameplay and strategic decisions that we saw tonight.
Yeah, we're talking about episode 3, Belly of the Beast. Fun episode. Spoiler alert. I cannot wait for Rum to go home. It's going to be epic. Not like that I dislike him, but I just want his downfall. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for Rum to fall.
This was an episode where we built up downfalls.
Yep.
I'm feeling a lot better about a few of the people that I put on my stick a fork in them list last week. And I mean, it was a good episode of Survivor in terms of entertainment. But I mean, I'm ready to get into spoilers after Josh gives his sentiment because there's not much else to say. It was almost a standard episode.
Yeah, very standard episode. I thought it could have gone a couple of different ways, which is always good to be guessing going into a vote. Although it was pretty obvious that, it was just one of two people.
Yeah.
And also this was the second straight week where I predicted the tribe that was going to tribal council accurately, just purely based off of Survivor's editing. So maybe they're getting a little obvious with that, or maybe I just got lucky. Who knows? But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, big boot tonight. Again, spoiler alert, Asia goes home here. I know the RHAP community is mourning tonight. They lost one of their own. That sucks for them. I'll say it was self-inflicted.
It was.
So
we can't all be good Survivor players here.
So now, when one of us gets on Survivor, all we have to do is do better than 16th place.
And we will be the superior podcast representation on Survivor at that point.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're a better podcast. I'm just saying the world's best Survivor player might be a host on this podcast. Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Very
Jeff.
true. Very true.
Can't know until we're there.
Only one way to find out.
I know we had a commenter say none of us are ever destined to be cast, but Jeff, I know you're a big fan of our podcast. I know it. Cast me.
Well, should we jump into this episode?
Yes.
All right. But I guess we should also address, we'll address it more later, but Derek loses his winner pick tonight.
I do.
Yep.
He'll have to pick a new one.
Yep.
Early out.
Early out for Derek.
We don't see that very often with our winner pick, so it's I think I had a pretty early out recently, but whatever.
I think this is my first pre-merge loss in a while, so it was bound to happen eventually, and I went into that pick knowing that it was going to be Teeny or Asia, and I went with Asia. I think Ryan went with Teeny.
Yep.
So congratulations on your win this season, but I'm excited to land on somebody new. It means that I get a couple episodes to really digest it, but still where if I pick someone now and it's right, it's pretty cool because it's early in the season. Now I lost. I get it. I lost, but still might be fun to do something early.
Yeah. You could still get the winner now, but if Josh or I do it, it's more impressive.
It is.
It's more impressive.
It truly is.
I also really appreciate that we're each other's number ones, like in the actual in the actual game alliance.
As a reminder, I have Teeny, Josh has Keyshawn. We're working together. We took down Derek.
Oh, y'all. Well, okay. In fairness, our wagons were hitched, and I decided to take a hammer and completely sever the connection. If you've ever seen the movie Anastasia, they like freeze it and then they break the train car away. I did that.
Wow. I forgot about that, but yeah, that does happen. You just reminded you I just had a flashback to that movie. I haven't seen that movie in 20 years.
Or I broke you guys away, you survived, and I fell off the bridge. That's just, that's the way it happened. As you mentioned, this was largely self-inflicted. We saw it with John. We saw it with Asia. They're a
TK.
little with TK. Honestly, this is a great first 3 boots. First person on each tribe. There was a very good reason that all of them went home.
Yep. They may not have been the best choice, but they were still a good reason. For
yes, that's it. Yeah, that's
I think there's
saying.
a lot of lessons, especially in the pre-merge. I mean, Derek especially likes to talk about just chameleon, be in the background, just survive through with good relationships until the merge, and then you can really you can flex your muscles, be a little bit more aggressive, stand out to actually win the game. You also have to just get out of your own way.
Yep. And don't let your friendship of 5 days tank your own game. He's my best friend I've ever had in my life. You've known him for 5 days. Vote him out.
I need him in this game. No.
You don't.
No.
You absolutely do not.
Are you really going to pay for those plane tickets to keep that friendship up? I don't think so.
I'm assuming you have friends at home. If you don't have any friends, okay, maybe. But, find friends at home. So let's start around Tuku. Gabe is going to tell us that he played his idol because of how many people went home with idols in their pocket in 46. Fair.
I thought we talked about the fact that they left during the middle of 46.
And they may have, but there was still a lot of...
So maybe it was worse than he even knew.
Yeah, he got back like, oh my god, there's even more people who went home with idols in their pocket. I don't know exactly when that lined up, like how much of 46 they saw. But yeah, so that's why Gabe played his idol. Don't blame him.
Nope. I still think it's the right move.
And Sue wants Kyle out next. However, Gabe doesn't want to take out Kyle next. Gabe wants Kyle to stay because he thinks he'll be loyal. So he tells Kyle he wants to take out Tiana next. Kyle doesn't like that because that is his closest ally, is Tiana. So he's going to go to her, Carolyn, and Sue and basically try and throw Gabe under the bus, being like, hey, Gabe wants to use you guys as goats. Come with me. Let's do something. Let's take Gabe out. And Sue is just kind of irritated that Kyle has the audacity to try and change up the game. Sue really wants Kyle out. She's got a chip on her shoulder about it.
And by the way, there's two ways to think about this. You can look at this as bad on Kyle because, Kyle, you need to understand perception is reality. You are now on the bottom, and anything that you try to do, especially before the next immunity challenge when something might need to be done, is going to be seen strictly as desperation play from the bottom. If I was in Sue or Caroline's position, I would hear those words and most likely chalk them up as someone who is desperate, especially if that social connection just is not there. And if it's not there, that's bad social gameplay by him. Because remember, if you're going to be bad socially from the top.
Yes.
Be bad socially on the winning side of the alliance.
Like someone else we're going to see today.
And the other part is, Kyle, you were the only one on the wrong side of the vote. If Gabe is coming to you with an option to go with Tiana, whether or not that's just a deflection to keep you from playing Shot in the Dark, you can angle that like it is real. And you've known Tiana for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Let her go.
That was the bigger issue that I had with this, is it was almost a bit reckless by Kyle. You have someone who's giving you a lifeline when you were the only person on the outside of the vote here. We've seen it plenty of times in past seasons where this exact thing happens. That person wants to take this lifeline and twist it back on the other person by going and talking with people like Sue and Caroline. And then it immediately just cements them on the bomb because Sue and Caroline can now go back to Gabe and be like, hey, Kyle, this doesn't sound right, but Kyle was talking about how you were throwing us under the bus. Boom, relationship over between Gabe and Kyle. It's that easy to happen.
And there is a time and place to double back as the person on the bottom, especially if it's the biggest threat. Pre-merge? Come on. This is some pre-merge
Before
nonsense.
you lose the challenge?
Yeah. Not great for Kyle. Almost seems a little too nice for Survivor. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
It's possible.
Over on Gata, the shelter is not very good, according to Annika and Rachel, so they want to fix it. Sam wants to focus on food, but he goes along with fixing the shelter. But he's getting really irritated because Annika's pretty bossy about how to fix things, project manager type. Sam is getting pretty fed up with her. I get it. I would also be getting fed up with her. But Andy can sense the tension, too, so he's like, oh, I got an opportunity here. So he wants to get with Sam and Sierra and take out Annika next. So he's going to go over and talk to Sierra, try and bond with her, and even offers like, hey, so you can trust me, and I will give you my shot in the dark, so that way I can't play it, and I will vote with you. Which, for someone who's in as bad a spot as Andy, I like this, because it does make Sierra trust him more, and the shot in the dark is a shot in the dark. I think you're almost better off leveraging that if you can, as opposed to playing it just because it's such a shot in the dark.
The best time to play Shot in the Dark is when you are the big threat and you're just praying for time. I think that's the best time to truly play Shot in the Dark, is Shot in the Dark. Other than that, I'm coming to realize it's better to curry favor with it.
Yep.
Hand it over like it's an idol or some other advantage, and then use it to build some trust and let people who have agency in the game use you as a number without the fear of that chance idol, chance immunity coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great by Andy, and I think I feel more convinced than last week that this 3 could actually happen.
It could.
I was concerned about how Andy would be able to hold up if they did lose a challenge, and we have yet to see that again. So a lot can happen, but it really feels like the 3 of them will likely stick together and take out one of Rachel or Annika. Maybe a little bit more importantly, I'm a little concerned about Sam, just because this instance of Andy being able to read the tension between Sam and Annika, but also something that's going to happen later on in the episode where people see Sam and Sierra as a potential duo. I think Sam does a really good job in one-on-one conversations, but maybe just over time, his actions might be a little obvious to people about how he feels or just kind of what he's trying to do. So short term, I'm not really too worried about him, but more so long term, being able to execute, especially when potentially they merge together. So, something to pay attention to.
Yeah. And by the way, on the topic of Sam and Sierra, we got confirmation that Sam is engaged back home and Sierra, I believe, is in a very serious relationship. Survivor Edit, what are you doing to us last week? Because I think even we made allusions.
Yep. Well, I think that was intentional.
I think it was too.
Everyone else thought they were in like a showmance. So Survivor shows us all this stuff without the context of knowing these two are engaged or basically engaged, whatever it is. It puts us in the perspective of the other players.
It does a good job of putting us in the same perspective as the other players. But these are real people, man. You know what, Survivor? Not cool. That's not cool. I don't like it.
I like Ryan's point. I like that they are putting us into the same viewpoint as what other people are seeing, especially other tribes, because it's from the outside looking in. We don't know much about these people other than what we're shown.
I don't mind that. But what's nice about being in the audience of Survivor is that we are allowed to know more than them. So what you do is you show us the showmance and why people are thinking it. Cut to Sam. Oh, I'm engaged.
Well, they did that this time.
They did it this time.
Yeah,
but
we're only 3 episodes in.
But we had to sit on this for a whole week.
Made him sweat for a week.
That's rude. That's rude.
Maybe.
Sam, I'm glad you got a chance to say, I love you, my fiance. I think her name was Anna.
I don't know.
Whatever it was. But I'm glad you got to do that because I was mad at Survivor editors.
Over on Lavo, Rome catches some fish for his tribe. They're not huge fish, but they're fish. And he's kind of taking on everything himself. But he's also annoyed that people aren't helping him. It's like it's a little bit like trying to have his cake and eat it too, because he's annoyed people aren't making the fire for him and putting stuff in the pot. But he's just like, I'll do everything. He just kind of does it, and he's annoyed that people don't do it. You can ask for help, Rome. It's okay. Be like, hey, can someone get the pot ready? Can someone get the fire going? It's that easy. Like,
without passive aggressive comments about, oh man, this pot is so heavy. I wish I didn't have to do it on my own. Like, come on, man.
It's
dumb.
Not that hard. But he is driving everyone nuts and eats half the fish he caught for himself in front of everybody. If it wasn't for that idol, man, I feel like he'd be so gone.
Now, I would like to add an asterisk just because he did tweet this out today during the episode, but he said that he did actually catch 7 fish and only eat 2.
Okay.
Now, that's still... The ratio doesn't work out. The math isn't mathing there. He still ate more fish than anyone else, but I don't think it was that egregious versus what we were shown.
But why would the edit say that he caught 4? He might have caught 3 later on that day.
Yeah. And that's possible.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Remember, Twitter is not canon.
True. Very true.
Especially when it's straight from the fisherman's mouth. And I'm not saying that Rome is an unreliable narrator, but Rome also thinks that he could have played in the NBA.
And could have been a rapper.
And he thinks that he could possibly catch the most fish in one day in Survivor history, lest we forget that Ozzy exists.
I'm not a rapper.
I'm
not a rapper, but I'm also saying that Rome is an unreliable narrator.
He's a very unreliable narrator.
So, journey time. Boat's going to show up, and people are going on a journey. On Tuku, we get a rock draw between several people, and Kyle ends up getting sent. Great. Love Kyle going on this trip. I'm assuming he volunteered to do the rock draw. Excellent. Kyle should go. He's in the worst spot. Annika's going to volunteer for Agata, and I don't think she realizes she's in a bad spot, but she is. And so I think she inadvertently made a good move.
Yeah, and this goes back to basically the exact same thing I had said last week, where I'm not going to give her credit for doing the right thing, but not knowing that that's why she should be doing it.
Unless, obviously, there could be more we're not seeing. And then Rome's going to win a game of rock, paper, scissors against Soul. Rome's going to go. And yeah, he needs everything he can get because everyone hates him.
And yet he thinks that he's doing great.
Yep.
Like, he's worried about two people, which is, good read, even though it's super obvious that him and Asia, and then Soul is tied to Asia. He makes it very clear that they don't really get along. They haven't really had much strategy talk whatsoever. But he still thinks he's in the majority right now.
And he is right.
Yeah. But only because of other things going on.
If it was just based on the social game, and so that kind of like shows something like, yes, the social game is the most important, and Rome can't win, but it's again not the only important thing. This is a strategic, putting in the work to get stuff that also matters.
If this was season 9 of Survivor, Rome would be screwed.
Yeah, Rome would have been out here.
And I think when we say that the social game is the most important, it truly is
To win.
To win. And to go far in the game and have a chance at winning. But oftentimes today, like, what have you done for me lately? The strategic game takes over. And if Rome is annoying the crap out of everybody, but has a fairly public idol and soon to be a fairly public advantage, and you don't want to be the one to get knocked out in the pre-merge, part of the Derek chameleon strategy, or just, the chameleon strategy in general, would be like, yeah, let the guy with the hardware make a lot of noise, and we'll just follow him, and we'll cut his throat when we just don't want him anymore.
Or take him to the end.
There's plenty. There's the Meat Shield, and there's the Rome Shield Alliance. We'll call it the Phalanx.
I get it. That was dumb.
Weird.
I get it.
It was pretty funny.
It was more intelligent than funny.
It's something that
Drew
Basile
weird.
would have said.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But yeah, so they get to Mystery Adventure Island, and Rome finds out TK is gone, and he's like, man, I'm glad that guy's gone. He was just so arrogant.
Seriously? Does this guy have 1 ounce of self-awareness?
Also, I would like to add in there, if you are going to Mystery Adventure Island and someone says that someone gets voted out, don't cheer and hoop and holler, like being like, yeah, I'm so glad this guy's out. It could be this. It could be his closest ally. And it was. So you might not be making the greatest first impression when you do something like that, regardless of how you actually feel about the guy.
Keep your emotions in check. Rome says that Soul and Asia are running his tribe, and he's throwing them under the bus. He just wants the target on them for the other tribes to talk about.
Don't hate that, actually.
Yeah, actually, I do like that. And then this is where you find out everyone thinks Sam and Sierra are in a showmance. This is news to Annika. So she's going to, when she gets back to camp, she's going to be like, everyone thinks you guys are in a showmance.
We called this.
Yep.
Or at least I said the edit whoop-de-wopped us.
Whoop-de-wopped us. Should have seen it. Yeah, I'm gonna blame myself for this one. I should have caught that. I should have known better. Because I picked Annika. I think I picked Annika as going home next week, or at least from that tribe.
Well, and I think you were right, but that was because we saw Sam say that he wanted to keep Andy and Sierra and play the idol on Andy and knock Annika out of the game. We're like, but you have 3. I know your idol's only good for a tribe. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You were right, but
yeah. I fell for it. I shouldn't have fallen for it. So the game is, I believe we saw this in 44. You draw one of 3 scrolls from a bag. 2 of them are lose a votes. 1 of them is an advantage. If you draw a advantage, obviously you're done. If you draw a lose a vote, you lose your vote for a tribal council. You could draw again and try and get the advantage or get the second lose a vote. So if you get the second lose a vote, you're done, and you have no vote for 2 tribal councils.
The second step is new, isn't it?
Nope, this was in 44 as well.
Exact same structure?
Yeah, Matt Blankenship got wrecked by this, where he lost his vote for 2 tribal councils.
Hated it then, hate it now.
Yeah, I don't like this
Just
one.
saying, give him a choice.
Give him a choice.
This is literally you not giving them a choice.
Well, the second step's where the choice comes in. And I get you already are being likely penalized first in that first step. So it's kind of like, are you going to dig your hole deeper or just accept your losses? I don't like the concept in general, but at least they add a second layer and they're not just locked into whatever they draw randomly out of a bag.
This is one of the worst things they do on Mystery Adventure Island. Like almost everything else that I could think of is better than this. Let's not do this one. I don't like this.
Good time to reiterate that it's not only good things that come from Mystery Adventure Island.
I was going to say a good time to reiterate that generally don't go to Mystery Adventure Island. Just don't do it.
You got to be very desperate to go to Mystery Adventure Island.
To want to go.
Yes.
If everyone on the tribe wants to draw rocks or whatever, draw sticks,
whatever.
You have to do it. You have to deal with it, but also it's less likely to blow back in your face.
So Kyle and Annika both lose their vote on the first go and decide to stop there. Bad on both of them. Like if you lost your vote, decent chance you go home at the next tribal council. try and get the advantage. Maybe you can save yourself.
And
they needed to go for it.
And if you survive that first tribal council, odds are it's because you have a good alliance going on. So if you do end up losing your vote for 2 tribal councils, it probably doesn't actually hurt that much if you're going to make it to that second one.
At the time, I thought this was bad on both of them. But from their perspectives, I think Kyle needed to go for it, and I think that Annika did good to just go with 1, because Annika thinks she's at least in a grouping of 4 to get Andy out so she can have her vote back after that. That said, she's the next one out, so she didn't know it, but she needed to go for it.
Right, from her wrong-ass perspective.
Yes, and that's why...
We're better than that, Derek.
That's why I'm saying I'm trying to put myself in her shoes. Why did she do what she did? It's because she thought that she had exactly what you're talking about. This is what I was talking about with Rome last week, where you think you're in a certain spot, and so you act a certain way, and you accidentally do the right thing, but for the completely wrong reason.
Yeah, so which goes back to her lack of self-awareness of what she's doing, and that she is in a bad spot. She doesn't get it.
Which I think is a good tip, just in general. No matter how good you might think that you're doing in the game, it can switch very quickly.
Yep.
You might have a good core 4, like in Annika's example, and a really easy vote coming up, so you want to choose to just have your vote for 1 tribal council be gone because you have that 1 safe vote. Things can change so quickly, so just assume that you're wrong. Assume that you could be in the minority
or
on
at
a tribe.
Consider it. Like, at least, like, imagine scenarios.
And just imagine what it would be like if you were in that minority group and you didn't have that vote. What then?
Rome is going to get the advantage in the first try. Of course he is. He's going to get the vote steal.
The survivor gods are cruel.
Literally saved his game, I think.
Yeah. If the idol didn't, this did.
Well, and I'm saying more to just the 1-2 punch of idol followed by steal a vote when we're on a tribe of 6.
Yeah.
That this could easily carry him to the merge.
So when we get back to Gada, Annika's going to tell them, like, hey, Sam, Sierra, everyone thinks you guys are going to showmance, which makes them both kind of nervous. Like, and they should be, because if they are too obvious a duo, maybe everyone turns on them. Now, I don't think that'll happen, at least here, maybe at the merge. But here's something I thought of. What if Sierra gets so nervous about Sam and her being seen as a duo, she joins with the girls, takes out Sam?
I can see it happening.
But now, Annika's going to tell them she did not play the game. She had a choice. But then later she's going to tell Rachel and Sierra she actually lost her vote, which might actually prevent that from happening, because maybe now Sierra's like, okay, well, now it'll be a tie, so I have to stay with Sam and Andy. Could go either way.
And that could just as well be fodder for when a merge or a swap happens. I am willing to go against Sam.
Yeah.
I actually took that confessional as it's not an if, it's when it's going to happen. Yeah. She's going to purposely go a different direction from Sam. It might knock him out right away. It might leave him in a minority alliance. But I think at some point Sierra is going to come out like on top of an alliance situation relative to Sam because of this perception.
I agree. I think Sierra will cut Sam at some point.
Interesting.
Kyle's going to tell everyone he lost his vote. Boy, I don't know what else you do there, man.
I like it because why lie? If people are going to choose to not believe you, it doesn't matter what you're going to say. And I think when you're on the bottom, being honest might be the best way to try to build yourself back into a group. Because the next vote probably should be a unanimous one, most likely. So ideally, you can get yourself back in with a group and your vote doesn't matter in that scenario.
The only thing I want to touch on, because I don't quite know how to see this through. Gabe was conspiring with Kyle to take out Tiana. Kyle tried to convince everyone that this was the case. And because Gabe had a good read on Sue, and she doesn't believe his crap, and he is in a desperate situation. How can you, withholding the fact that you don't have a vote, how can you tie that in to Gabe trying to conspire with you and use it as proof that Gabe is conspiring against you? Is there something that you can do by withholding this information that can advance that particular truth, that changes the perception and pushes that truth?
Nothing I can think of.
Nothing that comes off like that I can think of easily, but he had more time on the island, and I'd like to think that if given enough time, he would have been able to, but...
I think that him losing his vote cements the fact that he needs to be okay cutting ties.
Yeah.
And going with Gabe and Sue and Caroline.
Try to take out Tiana. Yeah.
You might think that she's your number one, but sorry, man. This is just the hand that you're dealt right now.
Yep. Over on Lavo, Rome's going to tell his tribe he lost his vote, but then he tells Teeny, Genevieve, and Keyshawn, his alliance, that, no, I got the vote steal. I didn't lose my vote. So both Teeny and Keyshawn feel like, yeah, we have to go with them. Idol and a vote steal. We can't do a 2-2 split anymore because of a vote steal. We have to go with them, even if we don't like Rome. He's got the hardware. I'd rather go to war with someone I don't like that has weapons than people I do like that has nothing.
Yeah. Do you want Socrates with a book standing next to you? And I'm saying like Asia's kind of like Socrates here, and they have a book, or
Area Madman.
Yeah, the local village madman with a very sharp axe, and they hate everyone on the other side.
Yep, I'm siding with the Madman.
I think I want the person with the axe that day. I'm not saying I want to live with them, but like if I'm going into battle today,
yeah,
that's who I want.
I'm going to stab the Madman in the back at some point.
I don't trust you.
But he could take out the other people first.
And here's the other thing is they know Rome's personality. They know how big of an ego he has and how obnoxious and arrogant he can be. That sounds like someone who will actually be pretty loyal to you because they feel so strongly that they can beat you in the end.
Yep.
Even if they can't. Mm-hmm. Which I'm a little bit, actually, saying that, I'm a little worried that we're not actually going to get a downfall of Rome and that Rome could go to the end.
And have a downfall.
And to have a downfall.
Well, essentially, instead of it being like, Rome has a downfall because he misplaced an idol or advantage or whatever, and he goes out sometime whenever in the next few votes, we could be in for just a dunking of Rome week after week after week all the way through until final tribal
which would also be fun.
Which
I'm okay with.
This sounds great. He says he can play in the NBA and he gets dunked on every week for an entire season. A no-vote finalist would be the funniest outcome. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
But my goodness, it would be funny.
But Sol does not believe that Rome lost his vote, notably. We're going to go to the immunity challenge. Gada's going to have a really nice comeback because Rachel and Annika just nailed the puzzle.
Genevieve looking for advantages.
Yeah, we get Genevieve looking for advantages.
I love that. Where are you?
But Gada wins. Tuku gets second. Lavo gets kind of crushed because both Keyshawn and Teeny are bad on the balance beam and fall off a couple of times. And they fall back far enough that they can't catch back up. So Lavo is going to Tribal Council for the first time. And the targets are Sol and Asia. Asia's going to suggest, like, hey, let's take out Genevieve. It's the safe option. And Teeny agrees at first, but it's not going to happen.
Side note, real quickly before we get into this, is this the first time in the new era that we've had each tribe go to tribal council in the like consecutively in the first 3 episodes?
No, 44 we did.
Really?
Yep.
We've just talked so much about people getting behind and then
punitive challenges.
Yeah.
Yep. 44 was the first, the only time we did it. But it was kind of weird because they also lost Bruce in the first. So the Tuku tribe, what the Taku, whatever, the Carson,
Blue.
the purple, Carson, Jam, Carolyn, Helen, Sarah, and
Pink
Bruce,
tribe.
the pinkish purple tribe.
Yeah.
They lost. So yeah, Bruce got evacuated. Orange tribe lost. They voted out Maddie, and then the pink tribe lost. They voted out Helen. Then the green tribe lost, and they voted out Claire. Yeah, so Bruce is in there though.
God, I wish I had your memory about that.
Well, remember, he's got spreadsheets for this stuff. And by the way, the YouTube audience will have a treat for that because just watching Ryan
the
compute
gears.
this, I feel like I can see the cogs turning. And they're a little gummed,
that,
but like
that
he can get through
of
it.
Maddie surprised me. I'm like, how did you get that? Good for you. Good for you.
He has his moments.
Yeah, that brings something to the table.
This is why we invite Ryan to the podcast.
Asia or Sol. At first, they think maybe we should get rid of Sol because he's more likely to find the idol. Which
Well, that's how Teeny sells it to Rome, which is exactly the right way to sell it to Rome.
Yeah.
But they really feel that way because they've got a strong social bond with Asia.
Teeny and Keyshawn want to save Asia because they like her more and get rid of Sol. But like that, I can't believe Rome buys that. Like Sol's going to look for the idol really hard, and Asia's not.
Well, no. What you do is you if you're Teeny and you're trying to sell it that way, you say, Sol, all he really brings to the tribe is the physical aspect, the strength, and you are our best challenge performer.
Exactly.
Rome.
Exactly right.
So
That's exactly
It's like,
right.
I could have played basketball.
So like if we can work better with Asia going forward, we can vote out Sol because we already have what we need.
Yep.
It's so stupid that it will actually work.
Yep.
It's not stupid. It's called knowing your audience. You Jean Robert the crap out of them.
Yep. So that's the plan. And they agree we'll bring Asia in to vote out Sol just so we don't burn her. And so Teeny and Keyshawn, they're going to go tell Asia, like, hey, it's Sol. Vote for Sol. And Asia refuses. She's not going to do it. she wants Genevieve to go.
Which I really appreciate that we got this full conversation and the way that they approached it. I think they did absolutely the best job that they could in order to try to convince her without making it seem like, hey, we'd rather go with this alliance, or we're kind of just dragging you along. It was so much more of, hey, we'd much rather it be the three of us. We just kind of have to hitch our wagon to Rome.
They have an idol.
Are you joining in?
Come with us.
Here's your choice.
And she doesn't take it. She doesn't want to go to Sol. She wants to go to Genevieve. And this is why she loses.
I feel like I'm often the person to say, in order to stay consistent with what we've said on this podcast before, because literally last episode we were talking about how we like Gabe standing on business. And, a while ago, Derek was right when he was saying sometimes you have to be willing to go to rocks early.
I don't know what standing on business means.
It just means like, I'm not moving. I refuse to move my position. I will die on this. It's dying on this hill.
Okay.
It's just another way of saying dying on this hill. So basically what Asia is saying, like, Genevieve has to go because we need to weaken Rome's position. Where this differs from Gabe's situation with Sue and Caroline last week is that Rome is loaded with hardware and lines have not been drawn on Lavu yet.
Yeah.
Once you're fed into that information, you need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of people like Teeny and Keyshawn, who are a little bit more caught in the middle of this situation. They have absolutely no reason to force a tie with you, because I believe we have a question out about a 2-2-2 vote. Why didn't they do that 2-2-2? Thank you for that question, Brandon. The reason is there's no reason for them to do it. There's no incentive other than just trying to weaken Rome, and Rome can't win the game.
Well, and even if you did, he's got the vote steal. If he plays it, your plan is shot.
Well, and basically it would be
you'd have to have something communicated where, okay, if you get to the point where the votes start happening, cool, the 2-2-2 plan is on. If he plays it, then cool, plan B. Now, that's almost just too complicated for a first vote for a tribe that hasn't got a tribal council. Like you said, no lines have been drawn. I think you just want to have a strong 4 going forward. Hopefully that can be a strong 5, but that's up to that person.
Right. And what I'm saying is the reason you don't go 2-2-2, and the reason what you're talking about, like the vote steal, if you convince Rome that you're going with him, he's not going to play his vote steal in the first round of voting. He has to play his idol tonight.
Yep. But if he plays the idol and the vote steal, it doesn't matter.
Yes, then you're in trouble if he does both. But if he just does one and he wants to save the advantage for later, the 2-2-2 could in theory work.
It could in theory work, but it's the first tribal council.
The way they do it is the only way they possibly move forward with any semblance of a 5.
Yeah.
And that is why they did it.
So, yeah, a bad move to go with the 2-2-2. Asia's not going to go on board, so Keyshawn and Teeny are like, well, do we even need to save her now? She's not really willing to play ball. Does it matter?
She made the decision for them.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is surprising that she had vocalized that to them. Even if she really didn't want to do it, don't say that to their face. You're still going to be on the losing side. So it's just a bad move.
You can talk about it, but eventually you have to accept, like, you can't save yourself and Sol. Cut Sol.
Yep. Well,
push back once. You always get once. Be like, is there any way that we can do Genevieve? Like, let's think this through.
Yep.
If you can't come to something in that conversation, by the end of it, you can't let them leave that conversation knowing that you're against their plan.
What makes it unforgivable, in my opinion, or what makes Asia's downfall her own fault, they told her that Rome showed them his idol. Once you know that's out there, you understand that the incentives are driving them completely in the other direction. So you can always press back, but once the hardware comes in this early with no battle lines, I don't know what to tell you. You just got to let Sol go.
So we're going to go to Tribal Council. Rome's going to play his idol because it's the only time he can play it. It's going to be 3 votes for Asia, 1 Sol, 1 Rome, 1 Genevieve. So Asia and Sol split their votes. They wanted to do the whole 2-2-2, assumedly, between Rome and Genevieve. And the majority voted for Asia, and then Teeny threw their vote on Sol, just in probably case of shot in the dark or something like that. So Asia goes home. I'm going to say it's the right move.
I agree.
If Asia is not willing to play ball because you do like her more, you think you can work with her until you can't, then who do you get rid of? If it's a draw, like we can work with both of them about the same amount. Asia is weaker in challenges than Sol.
And I actually think that it's a pretty obvious decision. They had the right move the entire time.
Yeah.
The entire time, because Sol was the right move until Asia gave you that information that she wasn't willing to work with you to get him out. That changes it and changes who the right person is for me.
I agree. No notes.
What did Twitter have to say?
Wait, I'm going to call it. Twitter does not like this move. I'm going to make that
bold
bet.
take.
I agree.
You know, it's actually not as lopsided as I was expecting. 62% of people said that, no, the right person did not go home.
Yeah, I'm sure they all wanted Rome to go home. Or just not Asia.
Yeah,
Just
they
not
didn't want
Asia.
Asia to go home.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into best worst player of the episode.
Let's do it.
For best player of the episode, I hate to do it, but I'm going to give it to Rome. His social game is terrible, but he did a lot right in this episode. Going to Mystery Adventure Island, great choice for him. He got the advantage. He used it effectively. He got the people he needed to be on his side. He took out someone he wanted to take out. Does this help him win the game? No, but it was kind of his episode. He controlled it from beginning to end and took out someone who didn't want to work with him at all. So I'm going to give it to Rome. Again, horrible social game, but there wasn't anybody else who I thought was like above him enough where I could justify giving it to them. I'm assuming you guys did, but let's hear it.
I did give it to someone else. I gave it to Teeny, and it's because of how miserable of a social game that Rome is playing and how conceited he was, and giving up information on Mystery Adventure Island. Like, I understand you guys kind of liked the move to throw his tribe mates under the bus, but I don't love that. You're on a tribe with untested battle lines. You don't know for sure you can't work with these people, and that could come back to bite you. So you need to be more careful, and he's not doing it. He wanted to take out Asia, and after no pressing at all, Teeny was able to convince him that it should be Seoul, and it ought to be Seoul. And then eventually, when Teeny had the conversation to try to keep their options open and realized there was no hope for Asia, switched it to Asia. So while Rome had control because of the hardware he had, Teeny was the one pulling the strings, and Teeny and Keyshawn together.
Yeah.
But Teeny, it felt like, was more integral in that. So I'll give it to the Teeny Keyshawn duo. More credit going to Teeny.
I knocked both of them down a point just because they're the reason they lost the immunity challenge. That was part of it for me.
We have 3 different people here as best player. But first, I would like to say if I had to choose between one of those 2 people, I would go with Teeny, just because I think a lot of the things that Rome did right were not because of him. Like, it was because he had hardware, because people felt forced to go with him because of that hardware. All the social stuff is bad, and the only reason that he's around is because people literally have no other choice. Like, they're making the best move for themselves, and that's to go with him.
Yep.
Not because he's convincing them to go with them, or that he has this good group of people who are gonna, be force strong all the way through the game. That's not happening here.
He's got a gun to their head, basically.
So, honorable mention to Teeny. I'm not even going to give Rome an honorable mention, honestly.
I don't blame you at all. Like, I don't like this, but according to my point system,
I knew that yours was going to be Rome, by the way. Based on your point system, your highly flawed, unnuanced point system, it was going to be Rome. I don't love it, but you know
I
what?
also don't love it, but whatever.
I respect you sticking to your point system even when you know that it's wrong.
Hey, the point system is constantly being adjusted. Like, it's not just like something I wrote down back when we started this podcast or whatever. Like, it's always evolving. It is a living document that lives in my head.
Well, it has a couple more evolutions to go, it seems like.
You know what? Fair.
Anyways, the actual best player of this episode is Andy.
Okay.
Andy showed a lot of growth this episode because he learned to just take a step back and watch what other people are doing and learn from that. He learned from Annika and Sam's, honestly, not very vocal argument that's going on. It was a lot of passive aggressive comments, and he was able to see that there's an opening, and then make a gesture towards Sierra, giving up his shot in the dark, solidifying that option, because he knows he already has Sam good, but he needs the third piece of this trio. And, compared to last episode, I do actually think that this is going to be the 3 going forward. Okay. Last episode, I was talking about the fact that I thought that the 2 duos were going to stick together. I don't think that anymore. And that's because of what I saw from Andy in this episode.
Okay. Weirdly enough, I had Andy as my honorable mention, but I didn't like that in the pre-challenge scheming, which we very rarely get, and we didn't talk about it. He said, I honestly think I'm going to be good at like all of this, so I'm going to go. And then bro couldn't get across the balance beam. So I was just like, not a good look if you're going to do the hero portion of the challenge and you don't do great. It's splitting hairs. I do think he had a very good episode.
Because it didn't end up mattering because they won.
They won. They got first place.
Yep. Derek, who do you got for worst player?
Yeah, for my worst player, I have Annika. I like the fact that she went to Mystery Adventure Island. Based on where she thinks she's in the game, I think she made the right choice not to go for another pull from the bag. But where she actually is in the game, which if she had any self-awareness, she would know she should probably have pulled another one from the bag. She's annoying everyone on her tribe. And it's at the point where, again, Andy, who should have been gone and still can't win the game, is going to survive longer than her because she can't stop being tribe coach.
Project manager.
The project manager. You know, the tribe dad, right? Like, she can't stop doing it. So I gave it to Annika for everything and all of those reasons.
I also had Annika. All those reasons, one other little thing to add in here, just to kind of back up the fact that she thinks that she's in a different spot than what she actually is. You know, she thinks that she's in the majority, and the next vote is going to be a nice, easy vote of Andy. So when she gets back, she shows the two other girls on the tribe, here you go. Here's the real story of what ended up happening. I think that it would have made a lot more sense to go to one closest ally and talk about that, or don't tell anyone at all. That's good. That's basically public information now.
Yeah. I also had Annika, same reasons. Let's get into who's going next. Josh, start us off over on the Gata tribe. Who's going next?
It's Annika.
Agreed. I think it'd be a little more up in the air if Annika hadn't lost her vote. I think there could have been something else done, but the fact that she doesn't ever vote, I think she's done.
Yeah, and I mean, this is actually, I said it very casually, but this is actually a change from last week when I still thought that Andy was going to be going home. I think he can hang on. Yeah. You know, I think that there's enough other motivation going on from Sam and Sierra that even if there's a little bit of anxiety or being unsure from Andy's perspective, I think that they'll be okay at least kind of just working with it going forward, it seems like.
Over on Lavo, I think it's going to be Soul next, just because Rome still has the vote steal, which would prevent, if he uses it, it would prevent any sort of rebellion against him. So based on just logic, you know, obviously it's Rome and anything crazy could happen, but I'm going to go straight forward here, and I think Soul's next.
Let's see. There's 5 left. Because originally I had written down Soul, but if someone else finds that idol,
sure, yes,
I think I think they will just completely ignore the steal a vote and vote Rome out. I'm gonna change my vote. I'm gonna say that Rome will go next on Lavo because there are 5 people and only one of them is Rome, and I'm gonna chance that one of the other 4 is going to find the new idol first.
Easy vote Soul, so it's probably not going to be Soul. This is the exact type of situation where they decide that they can get Rome because he has this steal a vote and he feels really safe in his group of 4. So I guess the decision is, does this group of 4 stick together and want to roll through the merge with it? The way that I'm balancing it, I think they do. I think they stick together because, you know, they made their bed, they're laying in it, we're committing here. You know, if Soul would have been the one to go this week, that might be a different answer.
Yeah.
But I think now that that line has been drawn, Soul got a vote as well. So he knows that, like, he would have been the backup vote anyways. Mm-hmm. I think that it's over, basically, and I think that they're just going to have to commit to the 4. So I'm going Soul.
Okay. Derek, take us over to the Tuku tribe. Who's going next?
I'm going to say that Kyle isn't going to be able to adjust quickly enough. I do think that Gabe is going to make a push for Tiana, but I think that he's going to let Caroline and Sue dictate the next move if it comes so soon. And Sue wants Kyle, who wrote her name down, gone. There isn't no logic there. If someone writes your name down,
correct,
it stands to reason you want them out. And I think Gabe would be smart to let them have their way, or to let Sue have her way on that. Give a little, get a little.
It'd be the smart thing to do. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Gabe is going to kind of strong arm them into going for Tiana. Kyle doesn't have a vote, so it is really just up to the 3 of them. And I think since he doesn't have a vote, I think it just makes it easy to envision him sticking around. Gabe already brought Kyle to the side about getting her out, so I think it's going to be her.
I can see Tiana going next.
I mean, I could see Tiana going next. I could see Gabe going next if he tries to strong arm, 2-arm, but I'm just going to go with Kyle because he doesn't have a vote, and he doesn't seem very good at this game. So I'm just going to say Kyle. Easy vote. All right, let's get into who can't win. We'll check in again. I had Rome last week. You both had Andy still, correct? That's where we're at. Okay, yep. Josh, kick us off.
I'm switching.
All right, Josh.
I'm switching to Rome. You know, I gave Ryan crap about switching immediately to Rome last week. I stand behind that. I do stand behind that. That was too quick. Much like what Andy said in this episode, I just need a little more data. Okay. I need more data to work with, and I got it on both sides. I got a little bit of positive from Andy, and I got a little negative from Rome. They both work together, and now Rome is the person who cannot win this game.
My best player of the episode continues to be the person who can't win. It's Rome.
I'm keeping it on Andy. And it's because the people who are still in the game are still the people who saw him have the public freakout, and the people on his tribe who still don't know if they can trust him. Yes, he built some trust with Sierra by offering his shot in the dark and working with them short term, but they're willing to work with him short term because they know he's not a threat to win. So I'm sticking with Andy. I know it might be boring, but I think that public freakout, public meltdown, along with the fact that his tribe doesn't take him seriously, they just use him as a number, I haven't seen enough to move it.
Okay.
At least Rome strong-armed people into being in an alliance with him short term.
Fair.
All right, let's get into the survivor pool. Last week, or coming in, for this episode, Josh, you and I both had Sam.
Correct.
And Derek, you had
Rome.
Gabe? Or
He had Rome.
I did Rome.
Okay, you had Rome.
Yes.
So, yeah, we all make it through again. And I believe all the people who have written into us in the survivor pool all made it through as well.
Yep. All of our listeners, no one got voted out. Also, thanks again for following up and giving us your winner picks.
And we'll give you a shout out when you're wrong. So, yeah, if you want to play along, that's great. And when you get it wrong, we will shout you out.
Absolutely.
So I'll go first with the survivor pool. So I've used Rome and Sam up. Those were the two out of idols. So now there isn't anyone left with an idol or an advantage that I can pick. So I'm just gonna pick the person I think is the safest, which is my winner pick. I'm gonna pick Teeny.
Well, I'm gonna pick Sam because Sam has an idol and he has to use it. So I'm just doing the safe thing at the beginning here because there is still so much up in the air on this season.
Okay.
I'm going very bold here just because I'm making a lot of assumptions about how people are going to act going forward in this game. Also, this is the person that both of you guys have picked already, and that's Rome.
Okay. Gamble.
It's a gamble. He could be targeted because of his steal a vote, and they could pull a fast one on him just to knock that out of the game. I'm really relying on the fact that they know that they can beat him in the end, and they are hitching the wagon here to this foursome. Go Rome.
I'll be honest. I think if I hadn't already picked Rome, I think I would have done the same thing just because.
And I want to get it out of the way.
He has a vote steal. Like, he has something that could prevent any disaster if he uses it. So I like the pick. It's bold, but I think I like it.
And remembering if Genevieve sticks with Rome, which I would almost hope that she doesn't, but they are considered to be a duo on that tribe, at least a block, then the vote steal does, barring an idol, assure that he doesn't go home.
All right, last thing we got to do is check in with Derek. He has lost his winner pick. He's got to pick a new one. Derek, where are you at?
Yeah, it's really looking at who I think can win the game at this point.
That is
well
what
like
this
no,
is.
I don't mean like who I think is going to be a winner. Who can potentially win? Because we know enough about the people to where there are some people who I have literally stuck a fork in. So to revisit that quickly, I've stuck a fork in Andy, Rome, and Annika. So spoiler, I'm not picking any of them. Let's just look at the Gata tribe in general. The only potential winner that I see on that tribe is Sierra. I don't see anyone else. Rachel maybe before, but that shifted in the last 2 weeks to Sierra. And then on the Lavo tribe, it's Teeny and it's Keyshawn. And on Tuku, I think Gabe is the only person left on Tuku that can win. Well, I'm going to go to Lavo, and I'm going to hitch up with Josh here, and I'm going to go with Keyshawn for my brand new winner pick, because Teeny does feel so much like the Elaine Stott pick in 39. Teeny feels more Elaine than Tommy now, as long as we're referencing Island of the Idols, even though we try to do that as little as possible around here. So I'm going to go with Keyshawn, and I'm going to say if Josh was right on episode 1, good on you. I didn't see it, but I can definitely see it now.
I'd be super happy. It's been a while.
All right. That's it for this episode. Social media.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Castaway Pod, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Castaway Consultants. Go ahead and send us your replies, DMs, anything like that. If you have questions about the episode at the end, something you're dying to know, we'll answer it on the podcast. It might be at the end, it might be throughout the episode as the topic comes up. But go ahead and shoot us a message. We've had a lot of interaction, both on Twitter and Spotify, especially.
Yeah, we're getting general comments on Spotify. We might publish some of those, but we read all of them, and some of you are submitting your Survivor Pool picks through Spotify. We are including those in the game as well. So thank you for those interactions. And again, I'll keep watch for the polls and for the general comments, but Spotify still doesn't let me do that. So
yeah, and they're actually, I looked a little bit into it, and just like the interaction with people who comment, at least on the episodes. The only way for us to interact with you is to publish those comments. So I'm just going to say, like, if you do comment on there, hopefully be okay with us publishing that so you can see it on the episode, just because we like to interact with you, So as always, it might end up being public on our page.
Is there anything else, guys, on that note?
Not tonight.
No, I don't think so.
All right, exciting times. Hopefully Keyshawn goes next, and I'll win the whole thing. I actually don't want Keyshawn to go next. I like Keyshawn. All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.